Greetings and welcome back to the Witcher 1 Comedic analysis, where we do things that other people do in 5 hours in not much less time. This is the 6th and the final part of the series, so if you're a newcomer, I guess you're from Australia or Egypt, depends on which delusional book character you ask. Anyway, chapter 5, Ye Olde Vizima. Right from the start we are greeted with special effects and drama, followed by a bit of dialogue explaining what is happening and what place we have in this. Again, I evoke the rule of don't tell, show. The introductory cutscene should have shown us all of this instead of just... wait, what? It actually does, right away, immediately after. But what's the point of that whole dialogue section? Well, instant recovery is better than no recovery. Still should have been cut or moved. Ah, okay, more dialogue.
Words, words, words.
In this chapter, a plotline that runs through the whole game at last will come to its culmination. There are 3 sides of conflict, 3 ideologies, one of which Geralt will embrace. Knights of the Burning Bush, the trees speaking Celtic, and your inner One Witcher army. Very similar to the camp choice in Gothic, but much more interesting because of one thing. Here, all of this is actually a side quest. While you run around pursuing your BDSM adversaries, from time to time you will stumble upon a choice. Initially it will be about whether you will casually help a faction or not, but at the midpoint of the game you will be forced to support one, without the possibility of picking your own way. Naturally, the other faction loses its interest in you immediately. Sometime later you will be presented with another choice: continue to support the chosen faction, or return to neutrality. In a way, it is similar to Fallout New Vegas, where you don't have to commit immediately and can support whatever to the very end, where the final choice will be forced on you. The challenge is to make these midway choices matter, which they do, but only on the surface level, like what model will your fellow nameless NPCs have, and who will call you beslubbering urchin-snouted horn beast.
Yes! I'm just allergic to bastards.
Your final choice, though, affects the lens through which you will experience the game from now on. Otherwise, the structure of this chapter is simple and linear. Here all the other global quests will end too, with varying outcome quality. The worst one is that the dentist's quest rewards you with the best steel sword in the game. The problem is that completing all Witcher contracts rewards you with the best steel or silver sword, depending on your choice. So if you choose the steel one, well... Giving the same choice for the dentist's quests would have easily fixed this problem. This time we have several small locations, another city district, another swamp labyrinth, and 2 gauntlets with enemies. I don't really have much to say about them. Dentist's hideout in the old Vizima can be easily missed, which is not a very good thing, because he has an important aforementioned quest. The swamp location is a mess. It is like the previous swamp, but with random blockers and tall grass from the fields, and on top of that, minimap and full-size map give conflicting, equally inaccurate information. Also, there are 3 hidden crypts, one for each faction, and despite them being locked under a combination lock, you must use Ard and Igni in a pattern to gain access. Nice new mechanic, by the way. It is possible and actually very easy to obtain all other factions' quest armor items. They won't do anything except for giving a little space for improvement. It could have been designed in a way that, depending on your faction, a lock will take you to the different crypt instead of you pointlessly having access to all 3. Or alternatively, a way to somehow sell or gift items for something to someone may be okay too.
I'm glad you enjoyed yourself.
Gameplay-wise, we have a lot to talk about. First of all, every single location here is a slaughterfest. Enemies have spread like cockroaches, which is a common trend among old RPGs to have such endspiel, compensating for the lack of production time and /or for the lack of difficulty. I think that it is okay as long as it doesn't overstay its welcome. In this case, that's a tough one. Some other games allow you to just run through ignoring most enemies, but here to enter another location you have to be out of combat, which is particularly annoying in the old Vizima, though not for a long time. Less patient players are likely to drop the game here, but they are not likely to play it in the first place. Suddenly, a gift mechanic is improved. We have one storytelling Dedushka character to whom we can donate different stuff in exchange for assistance. If only they did it like this in previous chapters.
You missed a lot.
Between hordes of copy-pasted enemies, here we fight the most bosses. A few words about bosses in this game. The first boss back in the tutorial shows us that we are supposed to have gimmicks instead of, or in addition to, just being stat bags. It is needed because regular combat is beatable with simply leveling up, but bosses have to be something special. Though this idea is immediately discarded in the big bad orange wolf fight, for it is supposed to be an exam, checking if a player understands how to approach difficulty spikes. All the other bosses are gimmick fights. Until this chapter. The first one, which for my taste is another bad book quote, whose design is good on paper but was executed poorly. To pass this encounter you have to either run around the room under the Quen sign for some time, watching unskippable cutscenes from time to time, or just click the boss to its death. Okay, not a 100% stat bag boss. The second boss is much more challenging, but is 100% stat-backed clickfest, though he may be supposed as the endgame orange wolf check. No matter how gorgeous these animations are, in the late game they can no longer compensate for spammy combat. And then you have him. After fighting tons of warped and twisted BDSM slaves who through pain and much labor acquired an ability to bug block your spells, we have him.
The Black Overlord himself, the Master of Chaos and Destruction, the Dark Messiah of Might.
And it's gone!
A clear indicator that here the game hits the absolute low, but not all is yet lost. Because suddenly the game bounces back in the air with all the inertia gained from this chapter's plummet right into the epilogue. The cathartic resolution where all masks are dropped and all cards are shown.
Hans, are we the baddies?
Like in theater, actors come on stage for a final bow to tell you how their story ended and to guide you into the final encounter with the last unresolved storyline. If that is not a satisfying ending, I don't know what is. But there is still a missed opportunity, or it is a not finished feature, I don't know. When you are in the day after tomorrow section, you are told to run away from the storm, which does not follow you in real time. If it did, it would have spiced the section for a bit. You have one, look, we made this best boss in the game, but not the place for him, so there you are. 2 click-fast encounters, one of which tries to look like a gimmick encounter. And that's it. The game is over. But before we conclude, of course, there is an improvement suggestion list. Cut all the swamp stuff. Amputate the whole book quote questline. Expand the old Vizima, then instead of swamp we go straight to the bigger BDSM dungeon, where we can even have a fitting place for the best boss. Then we immediately go to the expanded day after tomorrow. That way we cut all the pointless content, resulting in better and more consistent experience. And that's it. We had covered the whole Witcher 1, except for the story, but I want to keep these videos as spoilerless as I can, so sorry. Maybe if the voice of the people will wish so, I'll make a video about the story, but now it's time to conclude. This game is an emotional roller coaster. It has an outstanding narrative, awesome soundtrack, innovative combat and deep attention to details and flavor. But after growing on a player for some time, it can instantly drop hard with one of its many loose parts. If you have a bit of benevolence and trust inside, you will see this game as it is. You will see how CDPR's train started running, initially slow and cautious, so passengers don't get overwhelmed in the first chapter. Then, in chapter 2, suddenly the quick acceleration through the unwieldy experimental knot of turns and loops, leading to the solid classic roller coaster, and then the under construction sign. But these madmen continued to build rail tracks like cartoon heroes on the move with what materials they had till the very end. They did it, and I am grateful. There is one secret, a key to understanding this game. It is not an action RPG, although it articulates it very poorly. It is an experimental mix of classic RPGs like Baldur's Gate and action RPGs like Gothic. Nowadays, action part usually overshadows RPG in such combinations, but this game has much more in common with KOTOR than with Oblivion. So the main problem is not the low budget or bad combat mechanics. It is miscommunication and false expectations. I understand you can't make a game with excuses. They should have stopped, should have curbed their enthusiasm, preserved energy. We can't rewrite history, but we can learn from it. Did they? That we will see in the Witcher 2 Comedic analysis. I want to thank all who made it to the end. You are truly the bestest of the best. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel, leave your feedback in the comments section. It is vital for my content creators' morale, and invite all your friends to join us on this journey. But for now, с вами был товарищ Комрад, out.